Hello, Carolyn.
Hi. Yeah, can you hear me?
I can hear you. I can see you.
Okay.
All is
Okay.
well. So all
Okay, great. How are the computers?
district needs tonight, right?
Right.
That
I
should
just
be
sent you a copy.
Yeah, I
as a
got
Word.
it.
So I don't know if we can share have a shared screen with that, or if you need it as
You
a
can if you
PDF.
want. Yeah, I just have to go open it. I'll do that while we wait here.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for doing this.
No problem. Trying to help out. Everything got kind of messed up with Michael's, whatever Michael was doing.
Yeah, that
Let's see. It said, but I saved it here. Maybe it's further.
Hey, Susan.
How are you, Carolyn?
Okay, that hopefully the humidity will cool down tonight.
Oh, man.
I know it's been intense.
Hi, Linda.
Linda, do you know Susan McEwen?
No, I don't think so.
I think
Susan is
yeah.
Koala Foundation.
Yeah, we corresponded about, I was at the landmarks.
Oh, I remember. Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
I just wasn't looking at you. I was looking
Don't worry.
at what I was going to share or try
Don't
to
look at me. Okay, Grant.
I can look at
Focus.
you now.
How you doing?
Okay. So do you still have another committee member to go here?
We're expecting Olympia and Tariq and Wendy, and I asked people to let me know. Everybody's been notified and sent the link, so I guess we'll see. Crystal said she
My
couldn't
usual
sign in
policy is
without.
to wait till about 6:35 and then say, let's go.
Okay, yeah. Well, we can't approve the minutes unless some of them sign in. So did
Yeah.
Anisha get in touch with you about coming in tonight in case you needed a co-chair or a co-host?
A co-host? No, but
Okay.
great. I can certainly make her a co-host. As we discovered at Landmark,
Last night.
co-host is a
Yes.
good thing.
Right. Yes, a co-host can be a good thing.
Do you think Anisha could take over hosting your meetings in future?
I have no idea. We haven't
Since
talked
she has,
about that.
yeah,
So,
yeah. That would be good because it's all screwed up, you know.
right. Yeah. No, I understand that it is that the twists and turns of life. Tomorrow will be interesting at the Parks Committee.
Yeah, well, thank goodness Michael is going to host that. I wasn't looking forward to doing it. I said I would, but it's a big meeting and I'm better with little bit.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, I'll do exactly,
Okay.
you know, but I don't know. Maybe Michael will now do exact. Nobody seems to know what's going on. So is he
Yeah.
fully back? Is he partly back? Does he want less responsibility? You know, he hasn't clarified. So
Okay.
work out in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, it'd be nice to get an update about what
Well,
exactly is.
Did you have the feeling, I
situation.
mean, you're not usually an exec, but that he was just doing way too much. He was, not only was he running all the Zoom meetings, but he was also doing a lot of things for Alicia, you know, attending Borough Board in her stead and chairing the school board meetings, you know. So,
Right. No, I know.
you know, that's a lot of extra work. And I think he's pretty much whatever is happening with social media. So some other
Right.
take over some of that stuff.
So I thought Toddy was dealing with social media.
Maybe that's true. Maybe that's true.
That so
I should probably pause this recording.
Motion to approve the minutes.
is there a second? Could someone who committee member at the last meeting second the motion? Okay, all those in favor? Tati, in favor of the minutes? Three. Okay. What about Wendy?
In favor, yes.
Okay. So Wendy, are you available to vote on the minutes?
Hello, can you hear me okay? I'm
Yeah.
using a new headset, so I don't know if it's working or not.
Okay, yeah, now it's coming through. Okay.
Okay.
There's the motion on the floor to approve the minutes for July 22nd.
Yes.
So are you in favor of that?
Yes, in favor.
Okay, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of us. So I think that that's a quorum. We can approve the minutes. So going forward, how many of you were able to review the draft of, okay, can we post that, Linda? Because I don't know if everybody has
About
it.
to give it a shot here.
Okay, so we're fixing to post the draft of the district needs statement. So if you want to take a moment to go through it.
Oops. Gonna reshare it, sorry. Silly me, I thought I could do something that I couldn't do. There we go. You just tell me when you want me to scroll.
Okay. We tried to reflect in the draft about the needs of the arts and culture community. The fact that 69.2% loss of total jobs lost since February of 2020, which has put culture workers, including performers, artists, administrators, in a vulnerable position. Okay, can we skip down a little bit? Okay. Many gig economy artists and cultural producers have had no income since March and weren't able to access unemployment benefits for months. The prospects of new commissions and projects are, I think it's non-existent since theaters.
Want me to change that for you?
Yeah, please. Theaters, venues, and all live performance initiatives are indefinitely shuttered. That the economic hit that the arts and cultural sector is receiving will last for 3 to 5 years, depending on sector specificities. Artists and cultural workers are the creative capital of New York, are integral to the creative industry capital that fueled New York's tourism and export economy for years. At the same time, the majority of public programs and all live performances are canceled. All arts and cultural organizations and venues are experiencing drastic revenue loss and significant reductions in annual operating budgets. This has caused an inability to cover operating costs, especially rents, and there is growing fear expressed for the very survival of many organizations. Arts and culture have a proven positive impact on the local economy and are important to psychological and physical well-being of local residents at this moment of crisis. It's even more important that extra funding, support, and resources are given to these sectors with special attention to local organizations that focus on the most impacted population by COVID. Okay, we can, that are low-income people of color. Here are specific programs and initiatives we'd like the city to fund for FY 2022. The city should create a WPA-style program to employ artists and cultural workers for the next 3 to 5 years as impacted arts and cultural industries rebound. Okay, down to the next page. DCLA and MOME should create grants and forgivable loans in collaboration with SBS with specific parameters that can be met from artists and local arts organizations. This funding should be used for rent relief, payroll, as well as for creative methods for online and outdoor programming. Many local nonprofits rely on City Council discretionary funding for their operations, and this year, one of our council members received a 98% budgetary cut. She had $11,375,000 last year. Fiscal year 2020 has been reduced to $225,000 for fiscal year 2021. We're calling on the city administration to reallocate DCLA and other funding to balance this unconscionable funding reduction to a district that has been recognized as a vulnerable area given the concentration of low-end communities and marginalized groups. Many nonprofit cultural organizations within the CD receive annual funding through the Department of Cultural Affairs. As resources are redirected to respond to COVID-19, the city's annual budget has become more constrained, so that support for small, vulnerable arts organizations is not certain. In CD3 neighborhood, art venues, libraries, community gardens, and parks provide local, often low-cost access to cultural programming, and arts and culture should be integrated into the planning of city projects such as designated arts and cultural spaces in new publicly subsidized developments. The Department of Cultural Affairs should follow the recommendations of Create NYC Cultural Plan by supporting arts organizations that expand, promote diversity and inclusion in the cultural workforce, and to increase language access for communications and cultural programming to reach broader, more inclusive audiences, and programs that support the cultural life of low-income communities, marginalized groups. In CD3, this would include funding for Latinx and people of color, residents, artists, and cultural workers in CD3 with particular focus on those in Chinatown and Loisaida. The city should explore incentives for developers to provide below market rate rental space for arts businesses and nonprofits, and city development should include below market opportunities for arts businesses and organizations, as was done for food businesses in Essex Crossing. Financial incentives for property owners to provide lower cost rental space to arts and cultural organizations would both lessen the number of vacant storefronts that can blight a neighborhood, as well as benefit the arts businesses. The city should include programming for public participation in the project design process of publicly subsidized projects. City Hall should move forward in reacquiring Charas El Bohio. I don't understand, for community and cultural center.
What, you meant nonprofit, maybe?
Nonprofit is what it means, yeah. Nonprofit community and culture as a nonprofit. I think it should be as a nonprofit. Community and Cultural Center, as stated by the mayor in the October, it should be October 2017 town hall. A restored Charas El Bohio can serve as a much needed access for a local web of organizations, stakeholders, and leaders that reflect the values of the communities they serve. The Mayor's Office of Media and Entertainment and DCLA should support a neighborhood level trilingual data and communications platform for the many cultural spaces and projects located in our districts to share information on programs and learning opportunities. DCLA, the Mayor's Office of Recovery and Resiliency, and the New York City Emergency Management should support arts and cultural organizations' direct participation in resiliency planning such as outlined in Create NYC Culture Plan. The city should increase community participation and engagement with the community board regarding any and all new cultural community spaces and publicly subsidized developments in the district.
At the end? Yeah, that's the end.
That's the end. So how can we go about? First, the committee members. Do you have comments on what's been drafted? Could you raise your hand in participants? Hi, Anisha.
Hi, sorry to join a little bit late. I think this is going, my comments are, I think it's going in the right direction. I think there is still a lot of information that was from the 21 district needs statement. So, you know, we should figure out if all of these different pieces continue to be the priorities that we want for FY22.
Okay. Do you have specific examples?
Well, you know, I wasn't part of, I mean, I guess I'm still not technically part of the Arts and Culture Subcommittee. But, you know, some of the things like community engagement with the community, or like participation and engagement with the board. I think there are some things that are, you know, with the fiscal crisis, the impending fiscal crisis of the city, I think, you know, maybe not having this entire long list of priorities and figuring out, like, because the pandemic is such an extraordinary situation and it has disproportionately affected arts and culture, what are the couple of things that rise to the top? Because, you know, I can hear Susan saying, like, this shouldn't be as long as it is, you know, this is what she keeps on giving in economic development, what she keeps on telling me. So I know, Linda, I see you.
It's very helpful, right?
So, which, I mean, just to say that, like, we should try to tighten it up a little bit. You know, maybe like the stuff about the Create NYC cultural plan. I think that is really important, but maybe it's not every single piece that's in it. Maybe it's a couple of the pieces. I don't know.
Okay. All right. Tati? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, no, I agree with Anisha. I think that we really want it to be like as specific as possible to the needs and to the district. And, you know, like, for example, the last one, the city should increase community participation and engagement. I think that's true, but it is pretty general without touching on a specific need. I think I don't know, maybe Anisha would have a better answer to this, but is the budgetary cut, like, obviously we're saying in the introductory paragraph all the cuts and the effects that they've had, but is that really, I don't know, does that work in a district needs statement, that number? Yeah.
I don't think, like, particularly we need to call out because so many things are going to change. That's my sense of it all. That certainly there are council members that got their budgets cut for this coming up, you know, fiscal year. But I don't know that we need to get into the specifics of that. I think the bigger challenge is that, you know, DCLA didn't reduce the size of their budget, and they're still sort of committed to giving grants and funding from, you know, council or other places to arts and cultural organizations, is at least my understanding. But it does mean that, like, we don't know, that's for 21, we don't know what 22 will look like.
Okay, my comment on that is one, a lot of small arts organizations depend on discretionary funding going through DCLA because they don't get funded. DCLA tends to fund organizations that have more funds.
Absolutely.
So basically, what will happen is that the smaller organizations will be defunded
And
with
I-
the with the
I've
current
heard
state of affairs.
DCLA that they're not going to allow not a number of new like usually every year the CDF opens to new organizations, like people who have
Mhm.
organization. I don't think that that's going to happen as much because it's still the limited pool of resources. So I think we should say,
Yeah.
I don't think that it needs to be as like, the specific numbers that we're in. All that. Tariq
But-
asked to scroll to the top of the.
You're talking about what's in the council members' budget?
Yeah.
Right, yes. Because normally the way that most small arts organizations are funded through DCLA is through a $5,000 grant from the discretionary funds that goes through DCLA. So basically, the amount of money that's been awarded to the council person is not going to go very far in regards to funding small arts organizations, because that discretionary fund also funds other nonprofits
Everything else.
besides art. It funds everything. So that will have a huge impact
Mhm.
on many of the little arts organizations in this neighborhood.
Mhm.
So I don't know quite how, if you cut it out, that it's going to reflect what the actual reality of the situation is.
I think we could say something like local nonprofits rely on city council discretionary funding for their operations. And for FY21, which is what I believe, it says that later. The council members that represent Community District 3 received significant budgetary cuts. And then some of the rest. I just don't know if we can say it is an unconscionable funding reduction. And I guess that's a question for like anybody else on this committee about how we say something like, do we say it's unconscionable? I don't know.
Okay, so it's all right. So I think you could say, instead of unconscionable, that the funding reduction to a district has been, it will have a severe impact.
Mm-hmm.
Let's put it that way. That
Drastic, maybe.
yeah, drastic is a good description.
That's less of a
Sort
valid.
of like axing them.
But more to the point is, do you want to put all these numbers in there? Is that what you're saying, Anisha?
I mean, it just, I don't know if it makes sense to include all of those specific pieces of information, because again, not all of it goes to arts and culture. I didn't work on this little piece of it, so I'm not sure if.
Right.
And then Tariq had a comment in the chat. Can we add rely on discretionary funds both for operations and for programming?
Right. Because that is one of the advantages of DCLA, is that you can use funding for administrative expenses as well as for the programming. And there are very few grants that fund administrative expenses. So it is the way that many small organizations help to meet some of their administrative expenses as well as to pay for the programming.
Right. So Linda, if we could add in for their operations and programming.
Right here?
Yes.
Operations and programming.
And then I think a period there. And then this year, or like in FY 20 and 21.
I'm going to say that in FY 2021.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I think also too where it should be many local arts nonprofits in the front, because there are many
Give me a minute
nonprofits,
here.
but they're not necessarily arts organizations.
Let's see, option for FY 25.
Okay, they received a cut to $225,000, and you're just cutting out the
See my keyboard here. It's funny. All right, delete key, where are you? There you are. Okay. In FY 2021, our council members received, okay,
A 98% budgetary cut.
and then this doesn't make sense anymore.
No, it's for the 2022, or
Do we want to take out these specific numbers?
well, I think if you say a 98% budgetary cut,
Right.
okay, then you could take out the numbers, but it's.
I think a 98% budgetary cut that drastically reduces funding for organizations for arts organizations within the district, right?
Yeah, I would, right, but it's also, since we're dealing with arts organizations in this document, I think the paragraph should begin, many local arts nonprofits rely on city discretionary funding.
Okay, let's start over here now. Let's see. So we said many local nonprofits rely on city council discretionary funding for their operations and programming. In FY 2021, our council members received a 98% budgetary cut. That
Drastically
Reduced.
reduced.
I'm sorry. Wish I could type. That would help, right?
Yeah. Well, if computers would sometimes be
Yeah, they have a
user-friendly.
mind of their own. Drastically reduced
Funding to arts organizations within the district.
In the CD3.
Linda, do you usually, since you're another chair of a committee, do you have things like we are calling on the city administration to reallocate DCLA and other funding?
Well, that wasn't relevant to landmarks. I guess we would call it out if we were facing drastic cuts in our funding because of the city budget cuts, we'd want to say something about it.
Okay.
Nothing gets funded anyway, so just doesn't matter. Okay, does this now make sense?
I think that's fine. I think Carolyn's last point was the very top of the second word should be many local, or third word.
Arts nonprofit. Yeah, right here.
What you want to say?
Yeah. Arts. Many
Arts.
local arts nonprofits.
It looks good.
Okay.
Should we
And
maybe,
I think
We should say drastic again here. We could probably just take it out because we already said drastic.
right. But I think you could also take out the arts in front of organizations and put these instead, because it's redundant to have it twice.
Here,
Yeah, right here.
I'm taking arts out.
Yeah, and put these to these organizations.
I think that's fine.
Yeah, Mike, in asking them to reallocate DCLA and other funding to balance this funding reduction to a district, okay, the funding has always come through DCLA through the discretionary funds.
Mhm.
How do we address that? Because I think that sort of gets lost.
I don't know that you necessarily need to say that, at least I mean, I think this was one of Olympia's points. What Olympia was trying to say is that even though DCLA has still a budget and like a huge budget and is still committed to funding arts organizations, it's the fact that city council in our district had their budgets cut, the mechanism through which that money comes, which does come through DCLA, I don't know if that truly matters in this. I think it's just that there is less money, if that's what you are implying, I guess. Or if there's something that I'm missing.
They're trying to. Okay. If they're reallocating DCLA and other funding to balance this, how would they do that?
I think they're saying
Because
like they should take money from other things in the city and give it to arts and culture.
There you go.
well, the thing about it is the mechanism to do that in the way that they normally receive the funding for arts organizations is through DCLA, through the city, or through the
Yeah.
Lower Manhattan Cultural Council. But that's, you know, that's funded. So at any rate, should we mention LLMC? There.
Linda, could you make a comment there and maybe we could move on from this point and then see what other things are in the document and then we can.
Right on here.
Right.
I'll
Yeah.
just, since I don't know how to do it the other way, I'll just put it in here.
Okay.
LLMC.
And what is the comment?
Lower Manhattan Cultural Council is funded through DCLA. And so expanding the amount of money that goes to Lower Manhattan Cultural Council would allow arts organizations and artists to be able to apply for grants directly through them as compared to DCLA.
That's a long comment. Okay, start over.
Okay.
I wonder if we can just put a note that says like mechanism for funding and then we'll come back.
Yeah, just put.
That's a lot better. Okay.
Yeah. What about including LLMC? Because that's the only funding source I know that if you're reallocating funds through DCLA that they could give it.
LMC?
LMC.
LMCC, Lower Manhattan Cultural Council. Yeah, that's it.
Linda, could we start from the top maybe?
Sure. I mean, if I could just comment, it seems to me that your need basically is, hey, the funding for what we do is gone.
Right.
You know, that's your need is to retrieve that funding somehow, restore that funding. Okay, go ahead.
Okay.
Maybe if we, like, if anybody else has any sort of like global comments, like any sort of big picture things that we should, that people think are left out or, you know, maybe should be cut altogether, sort of that kind of level.
Yeah, so why don't we try to engage the rest of the committee members to comment? That, Tariq?
You want to just do paragraph by paragraph? See if there are any paragraphs you could just eliminate or rewrite or whatever.
So there is a question from Jack in the chat that I can answer, please.
Okay.
So the discretionary funding is actually distributed directly from, through the city council. So they are a different budget line than what we would like to use. That would be a city line, where that other funding comes from city council budget line. If that makes sense, Jack, to your question.
So I'm not clear on that. If it comes through city council, but there's still an aggregate reduction, would it not make sense to make an appeal for the compensation?
So I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if they said earlier in the call. Sorry, everybody, by the way, for joining so late. But I'm in the DOE part of reopening the schools, and it's tragic what they're doing right now. And so, so basically, the reason is actually the city council speaker has the discretion of giving to the various districts and their council members money. And because Carolina Rivera specifically voted against his budget, she's part of a dozen of city council members that saw above 90%. I mean, in our district, 98% funds cut. It's ridiculous. It really sounds like they're toddlers and we vote for these people, but that's the reality of what we're dealing with here. And that's going to have a huge impact to a lot of local community groups, because very often these are the kind of funds that are a bit less complicated to get compared to other funding streams. And Department of Cultural Affairs had already said that, you know, our district, because of the concentration of Latinx, people of color, Chinese Americans, it has a lot of small, like lower budget community groups that do a lot of arts and culture education and service. And those usually are the folks that are impacted by this kind of budget cuts.
Yeah, we've talked about that. But the thing is about a mechanism about how it could be addressed. Because DCA historically has used the discretionary funds to fund the smaller arts organizations. And if those funds are not available through the discretionary funds, the other way that DCLA can administer funds is through Lower Manhattan Cultural Council, which is a much less complicated application process that would be more accessible to artists and arts organizations.
But I think there is a simpler way, Caroline. Basically, because the funding stream, you know, the DCLA may administer funds that come from the city budget that the mayor as an administration distributes. And then there are these additional funds that come from the city council, right? Sorry, my daughter now wants to say hello to everybody. So basically, what I think we could do is by just asking DCLA to make sure that there is additional administration funding. Okay. That could already would be a solution. So the thing is, the programs can be the same, right? But the funding stream that they will use, you know, for instance, the city will receive federal relief. Right now, we don't know how much of that relief will go. No, they will receive it. That's like something will come. Like I was also in a call with Schumer. Like there will be something. We don't know what it will be. The question is, the city will prioritize certain needs. And so as Arts and Culture Committee, what we can say is this sector is worthy of being prioritized because it had the huge impact, because it serves the people who have been most impacted, etc. And so I don't think you need to go crazy about finding the way that they can do it. Just tell them that they need to reestablish the funding stream and you're okay.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's a matter of opinion as to whether or not they'll do that. So at any rate,
whether they do it or not is their decision, which of course can always be affected by appeals and lobbying and mobilization. But the whole point of this letter, I think, is to make the appeal, is to bring awareness and to make the appeal, not to second guess whether they will or won't do it. I mean, that's just my sense.
Right now, the discussion really needs to be with the committee members, Jack. So to go through it first, and then we can call and ask for input.
I'm going to put myself back on mute. My understanding was that you had opened it up, but I'm muting myself.
No, we're still trying to have the committee members comment first. So at any rate, Thomas, do you have a comment? Are you still there?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm just thinking more along the lines, I'm in the school system, and these cuts really affect our ability to run after school programs. And I don't know if we could, I don't know how to articulate, there is a need, is going to be a need, at least in the next 2 years or more, for some kind of remote engagement. And how can we fund that, you know, because they have the ability to continue services, but that's the frustration we've been having, just how to get people to buy on to to funding something that's happening remotely.
Okay.
So I think we can
What
edit
about,
the,
wait a minute, can we check with Wendy and to see
I mean,
if
but
she's
if
got-
you think that what Thomas suggested is worth it, and I think it is, we can already start editing the reso, no? To
Okay,
add
I
his
think
comments.
we need to ask the other people on the committee what their opinion is, Olympia. Okay, so Wendy,
I'm
would you like to comment? Where is she?
I think, Carol, the proper point of order is Thomas should have said, I make a motion to add after-school programs, and then we can say, is there a second? We can say second, and then we can edit the reso. Because if Wendy adds another issue on the agenda and we discuss something else, then it's going to be harder for us to edit the reso in a proper way. That's my recommendation.
Okay, so where are you suggesting that Thomas insert this or make the motion to insert it, Olympia?
I think it's an easy way to add it. We can say, where we say that should create grants and forgivable loans in collaboration with SBS with specific perimeters that can be met from artists and art organizations. We can also create a new bullet point and say that they should also collaborate with DOE and give emphasis to cultural organizations that are after-school providers and support services for public schools. I think we can add it like that. Do you like this way,
This
Thomas?
bulleted list, Olympia?
Sorry, say that again?
You mean right in this bulleted list?
Right.
Yeah, we can add one more bullet and just say that we want also DCLA and MOM. I don't know if you work with music also. It can be also DCLA only. Collaborate with DOE and create grants for cultural organizations that are giving support services and after-school services to, you know, public schools in our district.
And sort of including remote learning. So
Yes.
say it again as
Right.
a complete sentence, please. And I will type it in.
Yeah.
Okay.
For now, we are actually on blended learning in this district. That I don't think it's going to work, but you know that's what they're telling us. So, Thomas, you want to say it, or I should? You want to try it?
I like the way that you articulated it. If we can capture it, I think that'll be really good.
We just have to take it a little slower for the slide.
Right.
So I would say DCLA should collaborate.
Oops.
Now you have all caps.
No. One
It
thing,
happens to me all the time.
on the wrong, my finger's on the wrong keys. Should collaborate.
Collaborate with DOE to create grants and funding streams for cultural organizations that provide support services and after school for the local district schools.
For cultural organizations that provide.
Right? Support services.
No rhyme or reason. Just
Oopsie.
the keys just go where they want to go. No, really, it's something
I
about
know.
it's very, very strange. Support services.
Support services and after school for local, actually I think CB3 is both District 1 and District 2 for schools because our community board and our school district don't coincide. So I would say local schools and, you know.
I mean, like after school programs, right?
Yes.
Local schools. Including remote learning.
Including remote learning.
Thomas's point.
I mean, I think the funding streams can cover anything they want. If they want remote learning, if they want blended, whatever resources they need, you know. Should we say flexible funding streams that can cover all the needs that these kind of organizations may have?
Well, I think the remote is kind of important to include just the term, because even if it's blended, that implies that there is a remote aspect. And
Yeah.
if students in the school actually wind up having COVID or staff, they're going to be on quarantine anyway. So I think
Yeah.
it's important to have it because it's going to be a trend for the next 2 years, foreseeably.
How about we say support services, comma, remote learning and after-school programs?
Great.
That would cover it.
Because I think that needs to be explicit. I don't think they think about these things.
Well, actually, there have been comment or links in the DCLA newsletter from the commissioner that they're asking, there are programs that are available that nonprofits can apply for through DOE
Good.
to provide after-school services and I think and community space as well.
Good.
So, Wendy, do you have some comments?
I don't know if I'm being nitpicky about this, but then that section provides support services, comma, remote learning. Wouldn't, like, I think instead of comma, just put including remote learning and after school programs would read a little better.
Okay.
You're right.
Okey-doke. All right. Do you have any comments?
I guess I feel like we might be straying a little bit from the district needs, just because the district needs were just supposed to be just explaining what's happening exactly in the district and what specific hits are. And I feel like we can create a reso that is also focusing on like the more immediate needs as well. And maybe some of this language can go in there as opposed to district needs. And as far as the after school programming, yeah, I mean, Thomas, you will know about this too. I mean, we do have a similar need expressed in education, health services. That's expressed pretty similarly, but yeah, those are my comments.
Okay. What about you, Tariq? Is your microphone, okay, can you put it in the chat box? Okay. Okay. Okay, so now maybe we should take comments from the public that's attending. Anamari, the WOW project. Andrea.
Hi, sorry, I had to step away for a minute. Yeah, just globally, I also agree with many of the things people have said. I think that, yeah, it's important to underscore that the performing arts in particular, kind of like small businesses are hyper reliant on, especially performing arts venues. I don't know if we want to single that out at all. Are extremely reliant on income from performances and that sort of stuff. And without that happening for a year or more, it puts especially small and medium-sized organizations at complete risk, and without any kind of steady support, they will shutter. So I don't know if we want to add a little bit more specificity. It's stated there the performing arts sector is especially hard hit. That's one thing that sprung to mind in terms of needs, and I do think it will be long term. So by 2022, we'll still be performing arts groups will still be struggling with this. So.
So I know you guys are considering also a rezo, I heard. So one thing I wanted to say, I completely agree with Andrea. But the one issue is that unfortunately the city cannot do much. So basically what these venues are asking for, and you know I work closely with all of them, they are asking for rent relief, for the continuation of eviction moratorium. Actually right now, the new moratorium signed by COMA until September 4th doesn't cover commercial leases if they haven't qualified for pandemic unemployment, the proprietor. It's like super complex. So actually, these people can be evicted before right now. But I think those can be things that we consider for the rezo, because those things the city unfortunately cannot do anything.
So you're basically suggesting that this paragraph here about the majority of
Like
public.
this
No.
paragraph
This
makes
is okay. This is okay because that one we use in order to advocate for a WPA, because the impact of the industry and the workers will go on for 3 to 5 years. So we want them to create a funding stream for WPA and to preserve the workers, because what we're hearing is the workers are either moving away or changing jobs. And if for the industry, the creative industry to rebound, we'll need to preserve some of our people, you know. And so that's why we put it there. But I was talking more about the concern that Andrea brought up, that I think is a very fair concern, that these people are not going to even survive. But the reason they're not going to survive is if we don't do anything about the rent, because it's just, you know, they are expected to be paying the same amount of rent, even though they've been shut down from the city and they have no ways of generating income, you know. So
Right. Also, the other thing that I need to find out, Anisha, do arts organizations, theaters, performance venues have to pay a 19% tax?
Oh, on like property taxes, you mean?
Yeah, like
So-
small business establishments, don't they have to pay like a retail tax or something like that on the space that they occupy?
It's usually that the landlord passes on the portion of the taxes in the rent or
In the rent.
commercial expenses that they pay to a landlord. Like nonprofits themselves obviously don't have to pay any taxes, but if they occupy space in a building that is owned by a for-profit, the landlord passes on the proportion of the taxes.
Okay. So is there a way of reflecting anything about that? How to address that issue for nonprofits that are performance spaces that are in commercial buildings?
I think we have it included in this paragraph.
Okay.
I think Andrea's comments are reflected in the district needs right now.
Okay.
But I agree with Andrea also that like out of all the different parts of the cultural landscape, performing arts seems to obviously be the hardest hit. And the Center for Urban Future report that is referenced in, you know, this DNS sort of reflects that all of the jobs in the performing, not all, a majority of jobs in the performing arts have been, workers have been laid off.
Right. So Susan, would you like to comment?
I think on Marie, who you mentioned before, she just said she didn't realize she was muted. Do you want to go first?
Yeah, thank you so much, everyone.
Okay.
I got into the meeting late because I got the email late. But first off, I just want to appreciate and thank you all for doing this and taking the time out and writing this language. But yeah, it's kind of hard. I mean, the discretionary, the CDF money that you all are talking about, it's definitely the theater companies that don't actually have physical spaces. It's going to hit them the hardest, not having that money. And for us being a venue right now, for instance, we got money from Carlene office. This year we got it, and it was a huge help to us because it's helping us pay our rent. So without that money there in the future, being that it's going to take so long in our industry, I definitely think Mary Fund is really big in the coming years.
Okay. So Susan?
Thanks, and thanks, Carolyn, for inviting me along this evening. Yeah, I'm still new to this, but I've been coming to community board meetings since the fall because I reoriented completely. I transformed what I was doing. I am an artist and I still live here. And I learned from you, Carolyn, about those facts that between 2008 and 2017, almost 4,000 artists and arts-related businesses disappeared from the Lower East Side. And that's related to the healthy storefront vacancy rate, or the lack of that. I mean, that went to 15% even before this. So for our organization, it's kind of evolve or die. So I'm wondering, with this document, what's the expectation or what's the purpose? I mean, what does the community board want to achieve? What's the expectation and ask? I mean, I'm just interested in that. Can we expect the city to seriously take this in hand?
I think that this is the only mechanism that we have through the community board that we can reflect what the needs of the community are. And that the document goes to all the elected officials as well as to the city agencies. And it puts it out there that these are the needs, these are the facts, this is what's happening. So, you know, that's the best we can do right now at this point in time.
Yeah, and it gets their attention anyway. So I know you're
the needs of the community. Hopefully,
so,
that's what the whole purpose is.
So you're mentioning the Create NYC cultural plan, and I wonder if you're familiar with the People's Cultural Plan.
Yes.
Great, and the Lower East Side plan might be worth mentioning in this context. I just thought because it's from our community. Yeah, and because some of the ideas articulated in those plans really relate to culture and land, and rather than gentrification, rather dispossession, and the challenges facing artists to hold on to spaces to live as well as spaces to work. And yeah, it was really interesting to learn that statistic about 69.2% of total jobs lost. And the strategy that we're looking to develop slowly is with kids and early stage artists who are out of school already and starting to try to earn a living. So I appreciate the mention of that it's crucial to try and restore Charas to the community and any available cultural spaces, because we have poets. We're known as the one, perhaps arguably the most creative, quarter of Manhattan, but we don't have Poets House. So we have all the history of immigrants, but we don't have the same kinds of cultural space as other parts of the island. We are the home of the Broadway musical, but that got taken uptown. So these are the kinds of things that have been in my mind, and how to really hit home with that as the uniqueness of the Lower East Side and what it has brought. But now it's artists and performing spaces, cultural organizations are decimated because of this. So I've been searching and listening to all of this, and how do we really articulate that Yeah, articulate that in a really strong way. So sorry, that's a bit of a general thing, but that's
Okay.
that's where I'm at. Thank you.
All right, thank you. What about Jack? Are you still there, Jack?
Carol, may I ask a point of order? If we are adapting this document, shouldn't we have like a formal process, not just generally listening to comments, but basically just review the language and basically suggest amendments if people have something to add? Because it is a very long document, and I apologize, I haven't had time to edit the older request, and I was hoping we can do that today. Because the older district need requests were incorporated, but for instance, charters, we should update it with the latest, or others may need to be updated because now they're irrelevant because of COVID. So I think if you want to adapt today this document at a formal way, we should finish that. And if people want to participate, they should just make it in a form of amendments or, you know.
Okay, the only way that someone could make a formal amendment, it has to be someone from the committee to make an amendment. But I think it's good to have public comment in order for a committee member to be able to make a motion to address that issue.
Yeah, generally district needs don't require formal amendments. They're sort of, the whole committee agrees to them, but there's not even, you're not even have a resolution to approve them.
But I just feel that if we continue having general comments, we're not going to be able to do the work that we need to do because the text is not there yet, right?
Okay. That's another matter. That's why I thought maybe you'd like to go paragraph by paragraph or something.
I think it's a great recommendation, Linda.
Yes, we had started doing that, Olympia, before you got here. We went over each paragraph.
Also, you finished editing?
No, we haven't finished the editing. What we did is we reviewed each paragraph and we asked for suggestions from people and comments from the committee about what they think needed to be included or deleted. Okay, and so far today we have Tate who's saying that some of the points that we brought into the district needs statement could be drafted into a resolution and removed from the district needs statement. So perhaps if that would be a starting point to do that, that would trim down the district needs statement. Anisha, what are your thoughts?
I'll let, Andrea still has her hand up.
Okay.
I wasn't sure if there were more comments from Andrea. But otherwise, I think we should maybe just start from the top and
go down. Okay.
So my comment, thank you. So my comment was actually related to like a specific point about the district needs that might fit in. And I was thinking about the cultural plan point. I think that just to make it a little bit more, I guess, practical, I think that we could combine, or at least maybe like the point about I agree completely about there's been a lot of conversations about reviving the WPA and CETA programs, which I believe were federal, and it just came to mind that most of the Create NYC plans come from federal dollars. So like the Building Community Capacity Program, I forget the other ones. I want to say the Disability Forward Fund. Those are federal dollars. So I don't know if I don't even know if that merits like a discussion about where the funding would come from for this sort of stuff, but it's just a point I wanted to raise for clarity and within those two.
Okay. All right, so we want to start with the first paragraph. Suggested edits. Olympia?
I think they're awesome, the first paragraph.
Yeah, the first paragraph's just general. And I think
hear me?
The paragraph is good too. If I could pipe up.
Yeah.
Can you hear? Sure. Can you hear me?
Tarika, yes.
Oh,
yeah.
great. Okay, I fixed my mic. Yay.
Great.
Okay.
You got your mic working. Good.
Yeah, okay, great. All right, I'm here. Okay.
All right.
Hard to type. First paragraph I think looks great. Yeah. There's no comment on that.
Okay. Wendy?
I think as we scroll down, maybe people should speak up when they have something that we need to change.
I agree.
Just tell me if you want me to scroll more.
Yeah, I would say we can scroll.
Yeah.
Can I ask, Olympia, I know you, or like it's, I don't know that we know that it's going to last for 3 to 5 years.
No, the rebound, yes. So the economic studies that I am, being distributed for the music sector, for sure the impact is 3 to 5 years. That doesn't mean it's not going to restart and some money are not going to be coming, but if we're expecting the level of activity, jobs, etc., that were there before, the best case is in 3 years, everything will be back. The worst case is 5 or never, I don't know. But that's the cycle that I'm told from industry. I mean, I can try to find you a source, but the studies are done now.
I think we should put a source if we know it, or we should say something like the negative economic impact to the arts and culture sector is anticipated to last.
Yes, let's say is anticipate. Thank you. That's a great edit to be nuanced.
Yeah.
I think we should still include a source with that.
I think so too.
Statement.
I think for the first sentence, the many gig
rid of
economy artists and, oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Lynn.
But yeah, the first sentence, that bit that says had no income since March and weren't able to access unemployment benefits, I think it's still an ongoing problem. Using past tense there makes it seem like it was an issue before, but now it's like slightly better. So we change it to like present tense. It might like show a, yeah, or still has no income.
Still has no income. Yeah.
Yeah.
So in that way, it makes it seem like it's like it can't be trivialized as easily.
So may I suggest 2 things? One, because I think Linda was finishing the previous edit, maybe the economic impact, because the hit has happened, maybe say the impact for that sentence where you edited to say is anticipated to be the economic impact. And then about your comment about the had no income since March, I think that is obvious that is continuing, but they weren't able to access unemployment benefits for months. And then what we can say is currently it is debated for how long those unemployment benefits will also be available, because they already expired, the enhanced benefits, but the PUA is secured until January. So, I mean, if you want to be precise, we can add a sentence, but I think the sentence that is there is valid.
But if people are still not able to access unemployment benefits,
I think the difference is it's one thing if they are not applying for it. Before they were not able just because they were not there, like the federal and state were not even able to pay anybody. You might have applied, you might have done everything right, but no money came to them for 3 months, most of them. Now, if somebody just didn't apply or they don't have their information, I mean, I'm sorry, but but the system is there, you know what I mean? Before the system was not even there. That's what this says. But I think the comment of, sorry, I don't know your name, of the person is valid, because what it's referring to is the fact that unemployment, the enhanced unemployment has already expired on July 31st, and the general pandemic unemployment for which every worker can qualify is only extended through January for now.
Linda, can you the top of
Reword
that.
something, tell me.
Yeah, Linda, let's start at the top of the paragraph.
This
And
one by gig.
many gig economy artists and cultural producers maybe lost in or like lost all income. Is it had no income is the right? I don't know.
I mean, they ceased having income in March.
Okay, let's just keep
They
had.
have had,
Should say have had, actually.
have had no income since March.
Okay. No income since March. And Olympia, you're fine with weren't or aren't able to access?
No, currently they are able to access. They weren't able for months. So for 3 months after they stopped
that's
having
it.
income, they still couldn't access money because the money was not there. I
Okay.
mean, the fastest ones within 2 months qualified, but the majority of people after 3 months got it.
And then you wanted to add a sentence after this sentence.
Yeah, so somebody just said that we should also add that the pandemic unemployment benefits are set to expire
In January?
soon. Yeah, I mean, the thing is with this HEROES Act and What Act, they constantly change those deadlines, but I think they're set to expire sooner than we know that artists will be able to go back to work. And we need to do something about that. I guess that's the real sentence,
No,
but I
no,
don't
no.
know.
But I'm trying
Yeah.
to find a way to say that without having to go into all of the details.
Right.
Yeah.
So much stuff could change between today
Yeah.
and July when this is important.
I mean, I think the reason for which you need that is because what you're urging the city to do is to take care of the artists and the workers, the cultural workers, with alternative programs.
Right.
And we can say the continuation of unemployment benefits is uncertain.
Let's
That's
do that.
short enough.
Let's say that. That works. That cuts through a lot of stuff.
Phew, we made it.
Almost. After benefits is
uncertain.
Uncertain. Uncertain. The continuation of unemployment benefits is uncertain. You've got, yeah, uncertain.
While the prospect of new commissions and projects are non-existent since theaters, venues, and all live performance initiatives are indefinitely shuttered.
And the economic hit that the arts and culture sector has experienced is anticipated to last for something to that manner.
3 to 5 years.
I think the negative economic impact that the arts and culture sector,
better than it, huh?
yeah, the negative.
Negative, right, in front of economic. Just put negative in front of economic, Linda. Negative. No.
Negative is above, in the line above.
It's in the line
Oh,
above, in front of
It
economic.
jumped on me, huh? Where did it go?
Right in front of economic.
That's where we want it.
Yeah.
Here it is.
Yeah, we should remove it there.
I know, this is the most annoying thing. I didn't plan for that to happen.
Don't worry, my computer does all the time the same.
Yeah.
Does it? I really, it's
Yeah.
They all like to think
If
for
I could
themselves.
stop using Word, I would be very happy.
Anticipated to last 3 to 5 years, depending on sector specificities, sure. However, artists and cultural workers are the creative capital of New York and are integral to the creative industry capital that fueled New York's tourism and export economy for years. I don't know that that last sentence fully makes sense, Olympia.
Should we change, sorry, but that the negative economic impact, change that to on the arts and culture sector is anticipated, because of that the arts.
Right.
Yeah, that works.
You're right.
So what were you saying, Anissa? You want to make it shorter?
I just don't know that the last
You
sentence fully makes sense.
You don't even
So
need this.
basically,
It's just
what
sustain.
yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it's not a fact. You've been doing pretty good about giving facts.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
So if we
but
just
fundamentally,
back
the
to
only
last one.
fact that what we're trying to say is you want to preserve workforce because our city agencies have a way of preserving industries, and that means they give grants to the businesses and the organizations, but they don't understand that those don't always arrive to the workforce. And so that's why the rhetoric here was, you love the creative industry, but you need to fund the people who fuel the creative industry. But if you think it's too wordy or obscure, we can just edit it.
I don't think that what your sentiment is comes across in this sentence. I think it seems like it's a random sentence about how New York City is a creative capital based on tourism, and not a connection between that workers work in the creative industries and we need to support them.
So do you think we should just
Kind
write
of already
it more
said that.
straightforward?
I think straightforward, or, you know, I think this is like, that sentence is more for like why New York City cares about arts and culture, maybe not necessarily why Community Board 3 cares about, at least from my perspective, arts and culture, even though it is connected to tourism for sure.
Yeah, no, I think what is important for CD3 is that even though the industry won't rebound for 3 to 5 years, we want to preserve those artists that live and work in our district while the industry is returning.
So then
And
why don't we
so-
just do that? Because
Why
that's
don't you say something about that you want to retain the artists who, you know, live here, that fuel
However,
the
artists and cultural workers, we can say, take out the word are the creative capital of New York. We can say, however, artists and cultural workers of the impacted industries.
Tariq has a good sentence in the chat.
Oh, great.
Okay, where's the chat?
I don't even know if we need the however. I think it's that artists and cultural
Yeah.
workers in Community District 3 are integral to the creative capital of New York that fuels the city's tourism and economy.
Perfect.
That's great. That's a great sentence.
Okay.
Thanks, Anisha.
Next paragraph.
So this paragraph and the next paragraph are a little bit redundant, and I think that they can be combined in a couple of ways or reduced. So
I think it also, that first paragraph speaks to the points of the specific programs that we'd like the city to fund. So I don't know if it needs to be said before we address the point.
yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, this is the framing for asking for forgivable loans and the grants in conjunction of DCLA, MOM, and SBS. So we can, you know, I mean, if you think that we don't need to frame it and we just can ask for it without framing it, we can do it that way. I felt that we had to make the case, but you know, I'm following whatever the group feels is the best way to convey the district need.
I would suggest that we get rid of at the same time and just start the sentence with the majority of public programs and all live performances are canceled, you know, that are with the majority of public programs and all arts and cultural organizations and venues are experiencing drastic revenue loss and significant reductions
By
in operating.
eliminating that, you change the grammar. Okay, so the majority of the programs and all live performances are canceled.
Yeah, are canceled. All arts and culture.
That's a consequence.
Okay. I would put with the majority of all public programs and all live performances.
Oh, now we're going back here. Okay.
Yeah, just put a with. And I think you could get rid of the R. to get rid of R.
Okay.
I think that paragraph looks good otherwise. And I think the beginning of the next paragraph could be removed. And maybe we just focus on that last bit, which is special attention to local organizations that focus on the most impacted population that are low-income people of color. And I don't even know that I think what perhaps it's that it's arts organizations that both serve and represent, in my opinion, people of color.
I like to add serve and represent. One question I have for you, Anisha, the reason for which this is an older sentence edited, the reason for which I think it's important is because people constantly talk about COVID trauma right now. I mean, both for, the victims, the people who died, people who lost their jobs, and also kids, because of what is happening, how we live. So the fact that they should fund these things, because these things also function a little bit like therapy, these kind of programs, is important. So
That's sure that was somewhere else. I also might have looked too much. But is that not at the top also?
Right now, no. It used to be at the top, and then when I edited it, it ended up at the end.
I think we don't have to say again that it's a positive impact to the local economy, because we've said that a couple of times.
I completely agree. Yeah, let's take out the economy. The chair of economic development said we can get rid of the economy.
Well, I talk about it in
Right.
I think it's fine to say, if we want to talk about the more psychological or human impacts, I think that's fine. I don't know necessarily that the point that you're making connects to that last piece of it, then, that special attention to local organizations. I think like everything is about special attention to local organizations that focus on or serve and represent people of color.
We made a sentence that doesn't work anymore. So
culture important to the psychological and physical well-being.
Like make it into 2 sentences.
At this moment of crisis, period. Yeah. If you put a period there, then it makes more sense.
At this moment of crisis, at the beginning, it say art and culture are important to the psychological and physical well-being of our community, and then say it's even more important that extra funding, support, and resources are given to these sectors. And we can also take away the word these sectors and say to local organizations, and make it even shorter.
Say again. Okay, so we got that part.
Yes, and then just take out this sector and say directly that the funding goes to organizations. Sorry.
It's even more important that extra funding, support, and resources are given to local organizations that focus on
that focus on the most impacted population, or the most.
So we just take out this part to these sectors with special attention.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Just to make it shorter, we don't.
Yeah, I like that. Let's see, it's even more important that extra money are given to. We don't need attention.
Right. Yeah, we don't need attention.
Okay. Be picky here, be an editor.
I would say instead of focus on,
suggestion, I think that if it would make more sense if you said that the focus on the impacted the population most impacted by COVID.
Yes, I agree with you. Yeah, much better. Second by. And then this last part doesn't make sense.
Maybe which are low-income people of color instead of that.
Yeah, instead of that, put which.
Hey, we made it through the paragraphs. Now,
Yeah, we just need to get rid of that oh, sorry, is that a comma or a period? I can't
It looks like a
tell.
period.
it's supposed to be a comma. After
Okay,
or which, you should have a comma. It's a comma, it's just hard to read.
all right.
Okay, let's go into the. We should define
Can
W.
I just make a comment here?
Sure.
Yeah.
You know, the district needs are a predecessor to later budget requests, right? And some of them
Right.
feel to me like budget requests rather than statements of need.
Well, the thing
So
is
it's something
what
we need to
Bonnie
think
was
about.
referring to is if we put that in the resolution and passed a resolution in support of these items.
Yeah,
rather
and
than-
save them for the budget requests in the fall.
Yeah,
Yeah, Carolyn, the budget requests are coming up soon, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, that usually it's the end of September, October.
yeah.
So I think the idea was that we would actually try to match the district needs to the budget requests. And that's something to think about. I have this need in my community. Here's the money I'm looking for you to give it to me.
Right. So do we want to take this particular segment out? That the specific programs, initiatives we'd like the city to fund for FY22 and turn that into a resolution.
Could do.
Why don't we
Just read through them and see if any of them really do belong in the needs statement.
Okay.
I mean, the fact that we need the city to create employment programs for the workers is a need. I mean, we can write it in a different way, no?
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, we can describe it as our district needs to retain arts and culture workforce while there is no work out there.
But we've said that very well up here.
Yeah, we have. I think
these are all good statements of needs.
Good. Okay. Perfect.
But I don't know if any of these other things really are more needs than budget requests, because I didn't read through them. I'm not trying to dictate. I'm not on your committee. I'm just
right. No, I know, but
whatever teeny bit of wisdom I have and what Susan is going to say.
Yes. Exactly.
right, exactly. That.
I mean, I think maybe what we can spell out is in that sentence where we're talking about the fact that they lost their income and they cannot meet the rent, etc. I think maybe the need is that because of the particularities of venues and nonprofit organizations, they don't always meet the criteria of the programs that are out there, right? And so that's why they always need to say that there need to be programs that are designed in a way that they can meet the criteria. But I don't know if that is something we put in the needs or
I think
the
that's
budget.
right, Olivia, because I think I think there is a connection, as Linda pointed out, between understanding that arts and culture is like the most, I mean, I'm economic development, so like I think about it this way, it is the hardest hit sector, right? Besides like general small business in New York City, and very much so in our community board area, because there are so many cultural organizations, small theaters, and I think you can certainly say that maybe it's not like we know specifically that there's a program or funding that's needed, but that there should be funding that's specifically targeted towards the cultural sector, because it does make up a significant share of the city's economy, something like that. So it's like, addressing a need, but it's not necessarily, you know, it sort of ties to a budget priority that we don't know yet.
Oh, I can see your budget priorities, okay. Wow. You got them.
Yeah.
Okay, so are we just leaving everything below there off, or are we going point by point to the older staff? Because the older staff start from point 5 on, I think. I haven't edited those at all. Those are the last year district needs from bullet point 5, I think.
Like here?
Yes, yes, exactly. From that point on is all our old district needs. And so I don't know if we want to just chunk them or repurpose some of them.
I do think it would behoove us to start at the top of the bullet points and just all, so that everybody has a chance to read it and go through. And
no, but I thought you said that they are like budget priorities and we're not entering the first 5 because they were covered.
I'm just.
I think what Linda was saying is that some of these straddle the line between budget priorities.
Yeah, it's tough.
Just decide what we want to keep and what we don't.
And is anything redundant here? Any way you can shorten it up is always good. Or you could just leave all this stuff in there and let Susan have at it. That's another possibility.
I wonder if this bullet point, the department, DCLA should follow the recommendations of Create NYC. I wonder if that is exactly what we're looking for to expand, promote diversity and inclusion in the cultural workforce. I mean, yes, obviously that is what we're looking for. But through these things like cultural programming to reach, I wonder if there's a way to like shorten this and also make this a little bit more relevant to the time. Because I think this is for like, I mean, I work on the cultural plan. I think this is more like, you know, diversifying boards or like hiring people, you know, which is I think a little bit different from the specific needs of today.
Okay, but basically isn't DCLA following the Cultural Create NYC plan that they've integrated it into their operations? So telling them that they should follow it, they are following it, is my understanding.
Mm-hmm. I'm just like, is this the most relevant?
Maybe you don't need to say so if they already.
I don't think it's relevant to today's time right now.
With the changes that they have integrated into DCLA and how they're operating the programs, now that they require that in order to receive city funding, that you have to have a diverse board. You can't receive it unless you do.
I mean, I think the point is that they've already adopted it. So I don't know that like.
Oh, that's what I'm saying, is they've already adopted it and they've put things in place so that it's impacted on the arts organizations that receive funding from them, that they have to follow the Create NYC plan.
Right.
Going once, going twice. Shall I blow it away?
Gone.
Yeah, I think actually we covered it also above when we said we want you to fund the people most impacted.
Correct.
Right.
I agree.
I also think that we can take out the publicly subsidized projects because I don't think we're going to have much development. I don't know. For the next year, I don't know. I mean, we can keep it.
The next couple of years.
Yeah, it's almost like you want to focus on the COVID impact.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
This is just sort of a general statement of principle.
Well, that principle applied last year when rampant development was going on in the neighborhood. Right now, it's going to be questionable as whether rampant development can go forward.
Yeah, I don't know if that one makes sense in the same.
I think maybe we can take it out this year, no?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we could.
We're gonna
Well,
have a
this-
lot of vacancy, and Ryan from BAB was saying that more trying to keep organizations in their spaces, rather than new spaces,
Yes.
places.
Right.
So this paragraph can go?
Yeah.
So
And what about the next one? Almost says the same thing.
I mean, actually, the way this should be written, because right now it doesn't make sense. It should have been, the city should include funding for participatory design processes in publicly subsidized projects. But again, I
Yeah.
just said it with funding. It's a little bit a budgetary priority as I wrote it.
It is. Can we blow it
But
away?
yeah, I mean, we can just
You
keep
can
it
blow
for
away to
for
edit.
the budgetary stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, keep
I mean,
your
this was
draft.
big with two bridges, like with two bridges, we had to fight to get funding to get all those community sessions input,
Sure. Yeah, so what I would do, Carolyn, is hang on to the draft since I've already wiped out this document. And there's a
Right.
lot of things in
I
that
have the
that you
draft.
should bring forward at the time of the budgetary priorities.
Right.
I presume we do want to keep Charis in here.
Please.
Yeah, but we should update the language to reflect all the issues that you discussed at landmarks.
Well, this is the point, though, is that the city needs to acquire it.
Yes.
The issue of the, problems, I would leave out of this. I don't think it's needs to.
Okay. Then let's go to the next point.
Okay.
Media and
I
entertainment.
could see these are kind of left over from last year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mayor's
Gold.
Office of Media and Entertainment and DCLA should support a neighborhood trilingual data and communication platform for the many cultural spaces and projects located in our district to share information on programs and learning opportunities. That's more like a budget request.
It is.
But I think the district need that was voiced is that we don't have, basically a lot of the programming out there is not available to all our communities because they don't have the means to produce trilingual promotional, I guess.
The thing about it is like with Community Gardens, Green Thumb is producing promotional materials in different languages and providing translators. So the city has been doing that in that particular instance.
This is a bigger ask, though, right? To create a platform.
Right, to create a platform, but they've sort of been headed in that direction. Because now you can request signage in Bangladesh, Spanish, whatever language, Chinese, that
is there
it's interesting.
a different ask from MOM in this time?
what?
Like MOM is represents, cultural is not just DCLA, right? It's all of the film, television, media. It's all of those sectors that MOM controls, or
right, and it also overflows into parks.
Right. So I don't know if I think this ask of this bullet point of MOM could be a little bit different. I think we should include MOM in here, but I don't know if this specific ask is the ask.
I wonder if you should change it into a need.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think if you changed it into
We
a
don't
need,
have
the way
this
it
thing
looks like right now is
yet.
like a budget request.
Yeah. Let me
To
copy
be
this.
honest, Anissa, you should consider maybe this for your district needs, because the reality is that the trilingual thing has been mentioned to me also as a need of small businesses, because not, we're talking about cultural programming, but the difficulty is that a lot of the programs that are announced, grants, etc., often are not timely announced in other languages. And so
Already.
you have it already?
Did a resolution.
You did a resolution, but not as a district need. So for
Not as
the
the district needs, because again, it's like, I think we were thinking about more, I think that felt like more of an immediate term, like there are programs that are coming out now and we need a resolution for it now, not necessarily to describe it in this way.
Mm-hmm.
Great.
Okay, so are we taking this out or leaving part of it in? Or how are we changing it into a need?
I mean, I
rather
think
than
it's
something
okay
you
if we
said?
take it out since they've done a reso about it and
It was
Okay.
included in one of the small business resos from.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.
This is similar, I think.
this was around, you know, East Side Coastal Resiliency Plan and stuff, that they felt that it really has to do a little bit like participatory design like before. I don't know what is happening now, because to be honest, we need open space with COVID and they're going to close the park. So,
Well, here's hoping on the 20th that there's something else that happens.
but do you think we need that, or we should just take it out for now, Caroline? I mean, generally it's an important request, but I don't know if it's a district need for 2022. Maybe it is.
You know, it's a bone of contention because DDC and the contractor that they're using are promoting an arts plan for the fencing as they destroy the park. So, you know, depending on what happens, we'll see. That they basically have it, they apparently took this to heart because they've included it as part of their destruction plan. That they're proposing to have art contest involving neighborhood artists, school children, etc., to design art to go on the fencing as they destroy the park. So I really think that we could delete it right now.
Okay, so let's delete that. I think the next point we can keep because it's an important one in the long term. But the last one I would just move higher up because it was more along the lines of the first bullet point.
You want to move it up?
Yeah, I would move it like probably point number 3 or 4.
Figure out what it goes after.
Yeah, it can go even 2. What do you think? Was it Tariq who? No, it was Thomas who suggested it. I think even number 2. What do you think, Thomas?
I mean, it's important, but we're also dealing with that in the other committee too, the HSHM.
That's okay.
I mean, I think it's a valid point because there are a lot of artists who do work with us. So,
Right.
yeah, I like it 3rd.
Okay.
Okay, right now it's 2nd.
Perfect.
So,
You want me to move it again?
No, that's fine.
do you
That's
want to
okay.
do 2nd or 3rd?
2nd is fine.
Okay.
It's important.
No, I know it is.
And it hits at something the city has to do. They have to fix the whole education system. And so this is important. As Olympia knows.
This
All
having
parents.
right. And Susan.
So pretty good work, folks.
Okay.
Okay, do we need to, you said we don't need to move to adapt or everything, we just finish the job?
I think what, if I recall correctly, you need to send it to Susan. But the actual approval of it will come at the same time as we do the budget priorities, which makes a lot of sense,
My
right?
understanding, don't we send this to economic development and they vote on it?
Oh, probably, yeah,
Yeah,
yes.
so it has to go to economic development. And if you all think it's ready for September, I think we can, but I think I mean, Tariq has said we vote in October. But I do think that I think Linda is also right that like it's adopted all together in October with budget.
Exactly.
Right. Well, they have public budget hearings that people will come and testify that will impact on this.
That's in September, I think.
It's
I don't know
sometimes
how that's going to be a
sometimes
Zoom
early
thing,
October.
I guess.
It's
So-
usually the end of September, first week of October.
Yeah, yeah.
Carolyn, it's up to you as to whether you think this is in the shape that you want it to be presented to economic development for September, or if you'd like to do October. You don't have to decide that now, but just talk
We've pretty much tailored it down, and that that we need it to go to economic development for September vote, so that it can be presented for the full board in September and
May
presented.
I make a comment?
Mhm.
Sorry, and I'm going to have to leave, but I've so enjoyed this. Thank you all. And would you mind scrolling down, Linda, to your first item? And because I never saw the whole thing. Yeah. Just that I had put in a language suggestion, and I'll sign off after I say this. So, obviously I use it or lose it. I'm just a person in the community, that the city should create WPA style programs. I love that. And Thomas's comment that prompted what is now the second point is very innovative, and I often find that's what's missing. And in something unprecedented like the time we're in, to push for innovation, to push for the change that we really want to see. So the Thomas prompted one is already suggesting something that would never have been thought of last year. So the first one, WPA, that's the first thing I thought of in March, but not to charge them with doing it, but to charge them with looking at cultural economies in a new way to revitalize communities, arts and culture reach, like the way the Lower East Side used to be. So we're kind of fighting to get some of the soul of our arts and cultural,
Okay, but what about if we inserted after cultural workers to revitalize with that?
I actually threw a wording in, and again, I'm just going to scroll up a bit, that the city should urgently fund innovative research in collaboration with artists. I mean, I don't necessarily mean it has to be that language, but something to say, look, we're suggesting they collaborate with DOE, so the city collaborate with communities, with community representatives, with community boards. I don't know what the answer is, but just not telling them to do it, but charging them to collaborate. So there's more innovation at the local level from the bottom up. That's what we need. That's what the cultural plan, the People's Cultural Plan is proposing. So something that charges them to
what if we
really
just
go
add
deeper.
in here, collaborate with the community too?
Yeah.
Yeah, that would work.
And there might be a better wording you'll come up with once you look deeper. But yeah, not just to say they should do this, because that top-down approach is what's gotten us into this mess.
Yes, it's terrible. Yeah.
Thank you. I'm going to sign off. Thank you so much. Good to see you all again, and see you
Good
soon.
to see you too. Thank you,
Bye, Susan.
Bye. Good night.
Okay.
I think it's pretty good, folks.
Yeah, it's tightened up a lot.
Yeah, and you may do, when you start thinking of this need and this budget request, you may make changes, but that's the whole point of doing them together.
Right. Does there need to be a dash between much needed, because
Yeah, where is it? Oh, here, yes. It's,
yeah.
Microsoft is kindly telling us that.
Yes, they are. Okay.
I didn't run any word, grammar review.
Yeah. No, I know. It's just, and there's one other down here. Any and all new cultural. They've got underlined.
Yeah, it doesn't like that, but what are you gonna say?
Uh,
Wanna
if
say
you got
all?
rid of the and put a slash, would that work?
I would get rid of any and just say all.
Okay, let's do that.
Then it won't complain anymore.
Right.
There's also the note we never came back to about LMCC.
That's right.
Yeah.
Ouch. Where did we put that note?
It's in
Oh,
bullet points.
Oh, it's in a bullet point. All right.
I'm not sure. Is it still there?
Yeah, here it is.
Okay. All right. Yeah. And the other thing is cut. I think budgetary cuts. It's underlining cut.
It doesn't like cut that.
Well, if cuts was plural.
No, that's not what it
Okay.
wants.
Yeah. What is it?
No,
Maybe
it may be
a
wrong.
comma.
No, it's all right. It's
No.
just
Saved to
wrong.
We can
98%.
ignore it.
Okay.
would
If you
sometimes,
got rid of that.
let Microsoft dictate your life. It's not
Okay. If you got rid of the that and put reducing instead of reduced, that might take care of it.
Yeah, you're letting Microsoft dictate your life.
And just change that to reducing.
I actually believe we can get rid of the comment about the LMCC because we don't need to find the solution. We just tell them the need. The need is that they establish that funding. How they're going to do it is up to them, or we can ask it at the budgetary requests.
We can put it in as a budget request.
Resolution.
This one?
I mean,
This
just
one,
to say like,
comment.
Ah,
If you just ask the comment, and we'll put it in with the budget request.
Okay.
And a period. Okay.
Doesn't like this any better. Here, I
No?
think. I wonder if it's just that it was missing a space. It had an extra space. That's why it was complaining about.
All right.
Can't
Good.
stand Microsoft.
Okay. So is there a motion to forward this to
You
the?
don't need
Linda
a
says
motion.
we don't need a motion.
We don't need a motion to do that?
Nope.
Okay.
You
Fine.
just need a general agreement. Motion is coming in October.
Okay, fine.
I just want to make sure that there isn't anybody else who has any other comments. I know that, we tend to dominate the conversation. If there's anybody else who has anything to say. Maybe not.
Okay. Where is chat?
So I move to adjourn the meeting.
Is there a second to the motion?
Do you need to do a roll call? Or?
If everyone could sign in to the chat.
I think usually for the Zoom.
That's what we've been doing at the other meetings is people put their name into the chat, and that way we have a record. So, okay.
I'm going to stop the share so we can see each other's faces again. There we are.
Okay, great.
Thomas, which school are you with?
I'm at 751M. We're on East 4th between 1st and 2nd Avenue.
So you're District 1 or 2?
2.
Oh, okay. We're making Rackus a District 1. We should connect.
Yeah.
We need to get funding.
Yes, definitely.
I have a 4-year-old too, so I know the feeling.
Okay.
Yeah. They're pushing to reopen a very unsafe
Yeah,
Cool.
no,
Anyway,
he's
so the
doing
meeting is adjourned, but I couldn't resist asking you which school you are
I'm
with.
going to pause